Hello, good morning. You're probably going to see this recording because it takes a few seconds for this to show up live, so if anybody's waiting to join, it probably has not happened yet. This is Sunday morning Satsang. I mentioned in the typed announcement, we've been doing something around the ashram or in town related every Sunday morning for somewhere around or over 15 years. The form of it keeps changing, and so here we are today doing this, and I'm here today. Matri is here, and Raj is here, and Roho is here, and Darren is here, and Nicholas is here. Good morning. And Ray Jones is here. Good morning. And so I was thinking I may be a little bit premature because Guru Purnima is the annual celebration of the stream of consciousness called Guru. And so I was thinking about that, and this is what I wanted to make some comments about today. In particular, Shaktipata. And if you're here live with me, like Nicholas and Raymond, I'm saying Raymond because it has Raymond on there. I know you as Ray, of course, Raymond, and Darren and everybody. So if you want me to say anything, use the chat box. Go ahead and type in there. And there's Rojo is online too. She's here, but she's signed up and she's sending little heart symbols too. Isn't that sweet? Anyway, I'm quite enjoying this new technology, and along with the new technology we got a brand new iPad and a new tripod and a holder mount and everything, and so this is working nicely, and I'm finding this quite a nice way to communicate. And what I wanted to do is this is a book from Swami Rama called The Essence of Spiritual Life. It was the last book that he published before he left the body. Not that it terribly much matters, but it was originally published under the title Sadhana. And a couple of years after he dropped the body, the publishers changed the name to The Essence of Spiritual Life. It's still exactly the same content, and it's just as good. But this business of Shaktipata, you may have heard of Shaktipata. It's become a popular thing in the world of, I guess we could say, so-called modern gurus, that you can find websites on internet where they are selling you Shaktipata for a fee. And some of them say, you don't even have to go to their place and learn or study anything. Just go through their online videos, and at the end, the guru, a man, is going to give you Shaktipata, and you will become an enlightened spiritual divine being. And we all get to decide for ourselves whether this is valid or not. I think it is not. And so this business of Shaktipata has turned into big business. The reality is that there is such a thing as consciousness or grace, or and pata means bestowing, and Shakti is that stream of consciousness. So it's the bestowing of that Shakti. And traditionally, when that comes, I'm from a Shakti tradition, and it's one of the reasons that sometimes our meditation room, I sometimes playfully think of it as an oven. When you go into an oven, the path can be called path of fire and light, and we all want to know the light of God, the joy of the light of consciousness. But sometimes what we forget is that light of consciousness is also a fire, and the fire burns. It's not that it's meant to be not nice, but the fire of consciousness burns away what? It burns away the ego. And this just happens. It's the way the deal works. And so I sometimes think of our meditation room as like an oven. I, as a person, as a body personality person, I'm not the doer of that, and I'm ever reminded that, as a metaphor, I like the way of saying it, that standing behind me is a long lineage of sages And collectively, that collective consciousness is the Shakti. It's not me. And no person is actually a possessor or an owner of Shakti. So it's my Shakti and I'm going to give it to another person. That's just simply not how it works. But I wanted to read to you this little short one-page thing on Shaktipata, and then I'm going to read you the previous sections, which is a couple pages, which is a beautifully written description of Guru. And so Shaktipata and the word Guru go together, but this is the Shaktipata part. People think that by the grace of God alone they will be enlightened. That is not the case. This is Swami Rama speaking. My master said, a human being should make all possible sincere efforts. When he has become exhausted and then cries out in despair, in the highest state of devotional emotion, he will attain ecstasy. From time to time, I will hear from a person who is describing to me the despair that they are feeling, or sadness or depression or confusion after years of doing meditation. And it had happened, had a wonderful conversation with someone I know reasonably well in the last couple of weeks, and I couldn't help it. It just came out of my mouth. I said, well, I'm happy for you. And it's not comforting to hear that. I know when you feel despair, it's not comforting to have somebody say, well, I'm happy for you because you're suffering. But there is a truth in that. When he has become exhausted and then cries out in despair, the highest state of devotional emotion, he will attain ecstasy. That is the grace of God. Grace is the fruit that you receive from your faithful and sincere efforts. Shaktipata, not everybody agrees with what I'm about to read here. That's part of the problem in our modern world. Shaktipata is only possible with a disciple who has gone through a long period of discipline, austerity, and spiritual practices. Shaktipata on a mass scale seems suspicious to me. And I find that word suspicious a very kind, generous, giving word. It is true that when the disciple is ready, the master appears and gives the appropriate initiation. When a student has done his sadhana with all faithfulness, truthfulness, and sincerity, then the subtlest obstacle is removed by the master, by the stream of knowledge that operates through a person. Remember, the person is not master. Those who do not believe in discipline should not expect enlightenment. No master can or will give it to them just because they want it. And this is where we have no shortage of people who say, you want it, I will promise to give it to you, and it usually means give me your money. I have a little sarcasm over this, and I guess so did Swami Rama here too. The experience of enlightenment comes from the sincere effort of both master and disciple. Let us put it in different words. When you have done your duty skillfully and wholeheartedly, you reap the fruits gracefully. Grace dawns when action ends. Shaktipata is the grace of God through the master. Welcome. I was wondering where you were. Huh? Well, it should have ended 15 minutes ago. Did I miss the timing?
No, I missed the ending.
I see. Oh, yeah.
Just get back up.
Yeah. Gone in Yoga Nidra. We started Yoga Nidra a little over an hour before this gathering. So then any comments? We're talking about Shaktipata. And so if you want to say anything or add anything, tell me. I'm just talking to everybody. We've got 5 or 6 people with us. So I just did a reading of Swami Rama's comments about Shaktipata. And the comment on Guru is, a time comes when the seeker goes through a period of argumentation with herself or himself and cannot decide. At this time, a real preceptor is needed. How will you find the right master? This word master is a difficult word. It means one who has self-mastery. It doesn't mean one who is a master over slaves. It's an awkward word. No one can search for a preceptor. Preceptor is a much more palatable word, isn't it? There is a saying in the scriptures, when the disciple is prepared, the master appears. I reframe that a little bit just simply to say that if we're sincerely seeking and we need help, somebody will show up in front of us to give us the next piece. It just seems to be the way it works, doesn't it? This happens only because of samskaras, the deep impressions, the deep habit patterns that we have cultivated in our unconscious. Teacher and student samskaras are very ancient and strong, and are very, often two people are very close together and have been doing this stuff together over a considerable period of time. If you are not prepared, he will be there, but you won't notice or respond, or you'll walk right by. If you do not know what a diamond is, the diamond may be there, but you ignore it and pass it by, taking it to be just a piece of glass. Further, if you do not know the difference, you may acquire a piece of glass, think that it is a diamond, and cherish it your whole life. Food for thought, isn't it? A genuine spiritual teacher, one who is assigned to teach according to tradition, searches out good students. He looks for certain signs and symptoms. He wants to know who is prepared. Listen to that carefully. He wants to know who is prepared, who's already done some work and is prepared. No student can fool a master. The master easily perceives how well the student is prepared. So the student doesn't go to the teacher and say, "Oh, please, teacher, prepare me." It's up to the student to become prepared. The master easily perceives how well the student is prepared. If he finds that the student is not yet ready, he will gradually prepare him for the higher teachings. When the wick and the oil are properly prepared, the master lights the lamp. Remember, it's not the person who's lighting the lamp, it's the stream of knowledge called guru. That is his role. The resulting light is divine. And remember, it's a path of fire and light. So the light is divine, but it's also fire and burns the ego, which most of us are not looking for. You need someone who can guide and help you. You need an external guru as a means to attain the guru within you. And remember this phrase, an external guru, does not mean that the person literally is the guru. It means that the stream of Shakti can operate through a person. Sometimes you may become egotistical and decide that you don't need a guru. That is just ego talking. You will never meet a bad guru if you're a good student. The reverse is also true. If you are a bad student, you won't meet a good guru. Why should a good guru assume responsibility for a bad student? Nobody collects garbage. Cute, huh? If you are in search of a guru, search within first. To become a yogi means to know your own condition here and now, to work with yourself. Don't grumble because you don't have a teacher. Ask whether you deserve one. Are you capable of attracting a teacher? Are you prepared to be guided? I want a guru, but I don't want to listen to the instructions. I think I'd rather just be a teacher. Go to the guru and say, hi guru, how do I become a teacher? So in America, in the world now, we have tremendous numbers of teacher training programs. And from what I've seen, many of the so-called teachers are not even students. There is, I don't mean that not nice, but it comes down to this thing of preparation. Are we willing to prepare ourselves? There is a vast difference between an ordinary teacher and a spiritual master or guru. That which dispels the darkness of ignorance is called guru. In the West, the word guru is often misused. In India, this word is used with reverence and is always associated with holiness and the highest wisdom. I'm not so entirely sure that that's quite true anymore, even in India. The world seems to be changing once again, as it always does. It is a very sacred word. It is seldom used by itself, but always with the suffix deva. Deva means bright being, and enlightened master or guru is called Guru Deva or Gurudev. When a student goes to a guru, he takes a bundle of dry sticks. With reverence and love, he bows and says, "Here, I offer this." This indicates that he is surrendering himself with all his mind, actions, and speech, with a single desire to attain the highest wisdom, which means surrendering his ego, not becoming a slave to the other human being. It's a different kind of surrender. The guru burns those sticks and says, "Now I will guide you and protect you in the future." Then he initiates the student on various levels and gives him the disciplines to practice. And we hear this word initiation. Just note for yourself and ponder this. The word initiation contains the root initiate. And what does initiate actually mean? It means to get started. That's simply what the word initiate means. So initiation happens often, and we may not even realize. The guru imparts a word and says, "This will be an eternal friend to you. Remember this word, it will help you." Then he explains how to use the mantra. That is called mantra initiation, or if we say that slightly different, the beginning of the usage and practice of mantra, to initiate that use, to start that use. You may try your best to do something for him, but you cannot, because he doesn't need anything. You wonder, why is he doing so much for me? What does he want from me? I wondered that sometimes in my relationship with Swami Rama. One time I was feeling so, some of you have heard me say this, I was feeling so extremely grateful to Swami Rama. I was sitting in the garden late one afternoon in the ashram in Rishikesh in India, and I heard he was building a hospital. He came in the driveway in the car, and I approached him and I said, "Swamiji, I want to do something for you. What can I do for you?" I just wanted to do something nice to him, sort of to balance the scales for what he was doing for me. And he just looked at me with these loving eyes, and he said, much to my shock, he said, "Enjoy life." And the depth with which I could feel that he meant that, I said back to him, "I'm not sure I know how to do that." And he said, "It will come," and smiled again. And so it was a very precious moment to me, because in that moment I realized there was absolutely nothing that I could do for him. And the only thing that he wanted me to do for him was for me to enjoy life. And I gratefully, lovingly think that I've done a pretty good job of giving him what he asked me to give him. He wants nothing, for what he is doing is his duty, the purpose of his life. If he guides you, he is not obliging you, he is doing his work. He cannot live without doing his duty. Genuine gurus cannot live without selflessness, for selfless love is the very basis of their enlightenment. They radiate life and light from the unknown corners of the world. The world does not know them, and they do not want recognition. So what do we do in our modern world when we look around at what we see? We have to use our own discernment. Such people are called gurus. They guide humanity. As the sun shines and lives far above, the guru gives spiritual love and remains unattached. Guru is not a physical being. Those who think of the guru as a body or as a man do not understand this pious word. If a guru comes to think that his power is his own, then he is a guide no more. The guru is tradition. He is a stream of knowledge. That stream of knowledge goes through many channels. Christ also said this when he healed people. This is because of my Father. I am only a channel. Probably one of the most important principles of this word guru and of this word Shaktipat, which is what I wanted to bring up today. One of the most important parts of that concept. When the Shaktipat is given, it's not coming from one person to another. It's just simply not how it works. A guru should receive your love and respect. If my guru and the Lord both came together, I will go to my guru first and say, "Thank you very much. You have introduced me to the Lord." I will not go to the Lord and say, "Thank you very much, Lord. You have given me my guru." The Master's way of teaching are many and sometimes mysterious. He teaches through speech and actions, but in some cases he may teach without any verbal communication at all. The most important teachings have their source in intuition and are beyond the powers of verbal communication. Hi, Jose. Sometimes I'm a little slow to see notes there. Marlene is there. Hello, Marlene. It is a great joy. We're talking about Shaktipat. It is a great joy, perhaps the greatest day for a seeker, when she or he meets her/his beloved Master, who is totally selfless and loving like an ocean of bliss, ever flowing with love of all. I can remember such a moment for me. I'm obviously from America, from the West, so it's not part of our Western culture to walk around touching feet of respected people. In India, in some parts of India, this is very common. From birth, children are taught to touch the feet of, senior family members or extended family or the right people. And so you grow up in it culturally. And Swami Rama, if some Western would start to touch his feet, sometimes he would kick at them, not to hurt anybody, and say, "No, don't, stop doing that." Well, I never touched his feet, with one exception. There was only one time that it happened, and I was sitting alone with him one day, and we were talking, and I had been waiting for probably my whole life. I was in my mid to late 30s, waiting for somebody to show up to help me, because I was so confused about life and spiritual, and the religions I saw around me in my youth seemed crazy, and yet there was something calling. And so on this day, short version of it is, he finally said to me, "You are on the path and I will lead you." Those were the exact words that he said to me. And then he told me what that leading would consist of. And he said, "And if you do the practices, the obstacles will be removed." And then he told me where it would lead me into the realization of union of Shiva and Shakti and that kind of thing. But the key of it was when he said, "You are on the path and I will lead you." And I heard it to the depth of my being. And the only thing I could do was touch his feet. It was the only one and only time that ever happened for me. And so it's captured in this spirit here. The greatest day for a seeker, when he or she meets his or his beloved, who is totally selfless and loving like an ocean of bliss, overflowing with love all the time. I find this a little touching, don't I? Search for the guru within yourself, and anyone who leads you to your inner guru is your guru. Lotus feet means the feet that are on the ground but never touch the ground. One who lives in the world and does not belong to the world, one who is overflowing with love. For such a great soul, the poets and writers say lotus feet. Such a great man has power to show the path of freedom to others, whether he is in the world or outside. He can also heal the sickness from the karmic debts. He can remain untouched and above without being involved or reaping the fruits arising from others' karmic debts, unaffected by the karma of others. A true master has control over himself, not over others, has true control over himself and moves freely in the world. Moves freely in the world. People used to sometimes criticize Swami Rama because when he traveled, I know some Swamis who traveled and made sure that they had just the right clothes on so that they would be respected and bowed to as they went through the airports and like this. Swami Rama wore a business suit, a businessman's, nice business suit with a thing and a tie, because he's supposed to be invisible in the culture, and that's how you do that. One time, trying to be mindful of following the lead. One time, I wore Swami suit through an airport. I was flying from India. I was going to Singapore, and that Swamiji sent me there. And I said, sometime, at least one time, I should have the experience of traveling in this kind of way, just so I can have the experience of what happened. So I had on a Swami suit and the whole paraphernalia, and a mala and sandals, and it was, I confess, it was kind of weird, to travel through the Delhi airport and sit in an airplane wearing the Swami outfit and going through the Singapore airport and all. It was the only time I did that. And when a potter has completed making his pots, the wheel of the potter still rotates for some time, but is unable to manufacture pots. For a liberated soul, the wheel of life remains in motion, but his karma does not create any bondage for him. His actions are called actionless actions. Why is it actionless action? Because because of being constantly aware of the Atman, the center of consciousness within. Would you hand me one of my cards over there, please? I think all of you are familiar with this. It's the circle chart we're talking about. This is the center of consciousness. I've noticed sometimes that when you look at the videos, I think sometimes it reverses images. So this is my right side, but I think on your image you might be seeing it backwards, or when it saves it, it reverses it. So even this, we'll have to check this. Now when it, check it. Tell me when you're ready, and I'll put it, and you can tell me how it looks. But anyway, because of being aware of that center of consciousness, the actions that happen out here are action. Yes, it is mirrored. Thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas is always very quick to talk about these. Anyway, I don't know how to undo that. I can't do that. That doesn't help, does it? It's just an upside down mirrored thing. But you can flip it. Maybe if I do it like that, anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's the principle. When the student is competent to tread the path of enlightenment, it becomes easy for a great man to guide him. And one day he also attains ultimate freedom. So first become competent, and then it becomes easy to be led. And that's the section I wanted to read to you that Swami Rama wrote here about Guru. And that was the leading up to the Shaktipata thing. I don't think we need to go much longer. This is what I wanted to let you know about. But let me read to you again the thing we started with, which was this three little paragraphs on Shaktipata, which means approximately the bestowing of Shakti, the high consciousness. And so here it is again. If you want me to comment anything else, and you type in the box, I'll say anything. You're welcome. No, it doesn't. Yes. People think that by the grace of God alone they will be enlightened. That is not the case. My master said a human being should make all possible sincere efforts when he has become exhausted. So exhaustion is good. When he becomes exhausted and then cries out in despair, in the highest state of devotional emotion, he will attain ecstasy. That is the grace of God, or grace of Guru, or just grace, the Shakti. Grace is the fruit that you receive from your faithful and sincere efforts. Shaktipat is only possible with a disciple who has gone through a long period of discipline, austerity, and spiritual practices. Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras in chapter 1, describes, I've forgotten where the sutra is, 14 or so, and there tells us how we need to do practice. We need to do it with a very good attitude for a long time and without a break. Same principle. Shaktipat on a mass scale seems suspicious to me. It is true that when the disciple is ready, the master appears and gives the appropriate initiation. When a student has done his sadhana with all faithfulness, truthfulness, and sincerity, then the subtlest obstacle is removed by the master. Those who do not believe in discipline should not expect enlightenment. No master can or will give it to them just because they want it. The experience of enlightenment comes from the sincere effort of both master and disciple. Let us put it in different words. When you have done your duty skillfully and wholeheartedly, you reap the fruits gracefully. Grace dawns when action ends. Shaktipat is the grace of God through the master. That's Shaktipat. Not done on a mass scale with large numbers of people. Shaktipat is not the beginning of sadhana. You don't start with Shaktipat and a promise from some bearded man, old man, that says, now you don't need to do any more meditation or contemplation or purifying of yourself. Now that you've got me, you don't need to do that anymore. That's simply not how it works. It removes the final barrier. And often what it does is it removes the little barriers a little bit at a time over a considerable period of time. And sometimes that's a little bit painful because the ego gets bruised. It's like sandpaper. The sandpaper is just, maybe it's a high grit sandpaper or it's a very fine sandpaper. And you just seem to run into it in life. All of a sudden you've run into one more jerk in your life that is pushing your buttons. And who knows where it came from, but it works in that kind of way. So it's not all beautiful. It's not just that now I have this wonderful guy. I had many, many times in being around Swami Rama that, not from him, but by circumstances that I found myself in that were not comfortable at all, very painful and frustrating. And this is just how the deal works. It's a path of fire and light. We love the light, but we don't want the fire. And it's because it's the fire that burns somebody called me. And the thing called me, the somebody called me, the antakarna, that is the composite of all my false identities, is, of course, as we all know the theory, is not actually who I am, but it's who I incorrectly think I am. So Shaktipat, the path of fire and light, the fire burns away all those false identities, all those attractions and aversions, and it can be not comfortable. And it does not require that human personality person actually literally sits there and is trying to find ways to cause you to suffer. That's not how it works. The willingness that we have to tread the path of fire and light means we are opening ourselves to that grace of Guru, that grace of Shakti, and it on its own, without the instrument of somebody else who's on an ego trip messing with you. Nobody has to make a point to mess with you. Your own karma puts you in these situations, and the sandpaper works on you. The fire burns, and that's just simply how it works.
So in a way, the karma is quickening.
The karma is quickening, yes. The karma is quickening. We think we're going to get a guru and now life's going to get simple. And exactly the opposite happens. It speeds up. It's quickening. Quickening is a very good word, Raj. And it's like, how the hell did I get this? This is not what I had in mind. And I must have a bad guru. That's how this plays out sometimes. This is a bad tradition. I'm supposed to be wonderful and squeaky clean. Elsewhere, Swami Rama uses the phrase chop and burn, that what the force of guru does, you've seen that, is it does this action called chop and burn all of who I think I am. And what's left then is something divine, or some word like spiritual or divine or perfection. But it is a path of fire. The light is there, but it also has a burning quality. And the ego doesn't want to burn. The ego does not want to burn. It wants me to remain intact, and this version of me is going to attain something called Shakti, or God, or truth, or reality, or enlightenment. And it simply does not operate that way, because we are already Atman. We already are pure consciousness. As Jesus said, the Father and I are one. The difference is that dude knew it, and the rest of the people are walking around fools. And it's really, as a mystic, as a yogi, we say, it's true for all of us, literally for every human being. It's already true that I'm one with the Father. But the difference is that most of us are walking around, we don't know it. Why? Because we're wearing clothes. Somewhere one of the times we called it T-shirts. We're all wearing layers of T-shirts and clothes and jackets, and all of those are our false identities, and we don't want them taken off. Thank you very much. My clothes are comfortable. I like them the way they are. There's a little bit of suffering, so if you please give me Shaktipata, then I'll feel better. But I cannot attain what I already am. The ego emerges out of the Shakti, and then because of the nature of ego, it claims ownership of the Shakti. I have had people come into this ashram and speak of their Shakti. My Shakti is awakened. I've literally had that happen. And as soon as you say the phrase, my Shakti, you're already off track. Because who is it that uses the phrase my? Ego. My Shakti, that's ridiculous. It's like the computer, it's like the iPad there sitting there claiming to be the owner of the electricity that's coming from the wall. It's backwards. It's the electricity that allows the iPad to operate. It's not the other way around. It's not that the iPad gives permission for the electricity to come into it. And this is what we're doing in effect with our gurus when we say, with our egos, when we're saying, in effect, I am this wonderful, wonderful student, and I'm giving you my grace, Mr. Guru, by allowing you to take on the role of my teacher, because I'm such a great student. I'm such a great student, and so people are shopping for gurus. I get emails, from people from time to time. Somebody will write me, how do I find a guru? And I will have to write back and say, I cannot tell you that. I have never shopped for a guru. I have no idea how to shop for a guru. I can't answer your question. I've never done it. I have no experience in shopping for a guru. But if you look for what you're looking for, help will show up in front of you. Well, how will I know that help's in front of me? And I've actually had this happen. So sometimes I type back and said, sometimes it's very close to you. Sometimes help is right in front of you and you just don't see it. And I'm sitting there typing the buttons, and it sounds like a person who may be a pretty sincere, nice person. And they say, okay, and I've actually had people write me back and say, do you know of any such person? How am I going to answer that question? I've had that little challenge, and I'll say, well, yeah, I know a little bit. Somebody write me back. I remember one time a fellow wrote me back, well, who is it? And I how am I going to answer this? I wrote back, I said, you're going to have to find that out for yourself. And the man wrote me back after a week or two. He said, I went to my teacher locally, and he told me, you're no Swami. You're no teacher. You're no good man because you know the answer and you won't tell me. I mean, it literally, we're crazy. We're crazy people. This is the play of the ego. And so we have to turn it around. We have to turn it around and figure out, I need to purify my mind. I need to train myself as best I can. If there's the phrase that says when the student is ready, the teacher will come, there's a built-in implication to that. What is it that you must do before the teacher comes? It means you have to do it on your own so that you can do the thing called get ready. Listen to the phrase. It's a very ancient phrase. We've all heard it. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. It does not say when the student is totally incompetent and not at all ready, then the teacher is going to show up and say, here's how you get ready. That's not what the sentence is.
When they think they're ready.
Yeah, and so what is the task that is on us? Become ready. And there's just no escaping it. It doesn't mean be on an ego trip.
There's no clear-cut answer to it.
Huh?
There's no clear-cut answer to it.
There's no clear-cut answer. So we have to go on our own. We have to go on our own. How do I go about getting ready? Which leads me to, I wasn't trying to play a setup game with this, but I had on tap to talk next week to give some attention to the first niyama. If you're familiar with the 8 rungs of yoga called Ashtanga Yoga, if you haven't looked at it, we have a Udemy course called Ashtanga Yoga that I think turned out pretty well. I'm the guy in front of the camera. Matri's the producer, director, and the sort of the brains behind it. It turned out pretty good. And rung of the 8 rungs, Ashtanga, Anga is rungs, Ashta is 8. Of the 8 rungs of traditional yoga, as outlined by Patanjali in Yoga Sutras, rung number 2 is called the niyamas. The yamas, rung 1, has to do with my relationship, predominantly with my relationship with the world out there. Rung 2 has to do with my relationship with me. And there's 5 parts to rung 2, 5 niyamas. And the first one of those is called saucha. And it has to do with purifying body and mind. And so that's what I wanted to spend some time talking about next week. And so I didn't plan to set you up for that in the way I was talking a few minutes ago. It just kind of went that way. So we'll get together next week and talk about that. And if you want to say anything about it, type in we are most active in the Abhyasa Ashram Satsang page, group page, and so that's the place to go to have conversations or something like this. I don't mind receiving private messages, but in fact, mostly I don't even use my own personal Swami Jnaneshvara Facebook page. Mostly I don't even use it, and so. Feel free to type in the Abhyasa Ashram Satsang page anything about this. You know, if you have an idea and you say about next week talking about purifying body, I think so and so, or I have a question so and so. Just have open dialogue. It's completely okay to use that group page in that way to interact with one another and get to know each other as well too. So anyway, Saucha next week, the first niyama. Okay. Thank you for coming together. There's been several people with us, and then once I push the finish button, it will record and leave it on the page, and so some other people will be able to take a look at this. I went a little longer than I had hoped to. I scheduled these things for 30 minutes. Our other 9 or 10 satsangs that we have during the week that are online are going through more detail of texts and all like that, and those are scheduled for an hour. If you have not joined us for some of those, check it out. They're listed, and those are 9 times a week, including today in 5 hours from now, we're going to go through the Bhagavad Gita, and Leela the preacher is usually the reader of that, and that's a fun time. So thank you for visiting, thank you for listening, and get prepared, be prepared, do your stuff, and Shaktipata will be there. The blessings of grace of God and Guru are there. We're swimming in it. It's all around us. If you're ever around the neighborhood here, come here and come sit in the meditation room. I have come to start playfully calling our meditation room the oven. Even put a little sign on the door, the oven. Welcome to the oven. because that's what it is. It's Shakti. And so it's fire and it's light, or it may be said the other way. It's light and it's fire. So it can be either the fire that burns, or it can be the fire that gives warmth on a cold winter day. And that's kind of a nice warmth. So anyway, thank you all for playing. I would love to live in your neighborhood, says Madeline. That would be nice. But you know, a funny thing happens, Madeline. When you live in the neighborhood, you don't appreciate it. I mean, this is the truth. Most of the people who live in this neighborhood where we are have absolutely no interest in what we're doing. There are local yoga studios and yoga teacher training programs and all this stuff going on in this local community. They have no interest at all in me or what we're doing or my tradition. None. Zero. And so there's something about not being in the neighborhood. But when some of you who we get to know, as long as people don't people think it's a sauna. People don't think it's a sauna. Yeah, we don't have a sauna here. We thought about having a sauna, you know, a hot tub, but we don't have a hot tub, and we're probably not going to get one. Marlene has come here. Marlene has been here quite a few times, and Leela has been here many times. And I hope, Leela, that you're able to get here. I hope you're feeling up to traveling in a few weeks to be here at Guru Purnima time. I know that you're going through some changes and you may not be able to make it, but you know, I'm sure hopeful that it turns out that you're feeling up to the travel. And Marlene was just here recently, and so they know there's a little bit of light floating around in the meditation room. And we don't have much fire around here though, huh? Yeah, I'm working on it. Good. So, see you in a few hours. I'm glad you showed up for this, Leela, and see you in a few hours for Bhagavad Gita. We call Leela the preacher because we do this on Sunday, and Leela is from Tennessee and is of the Southern persuasion, in the sense of Southern in terms of the United States. And so we call her the preacher because it's Sunday and we're going through the Bhagavad Gita, and she's the reader and has that kind of voice. It sounds a little bit like a preacher. So it's fun. So thank you again for playing, and see you later. And thank you, Ma and Raj and Roho, for sitting here with me. So I'm becoming accustomed to talking to all of you by looking at this thing. It's taking me a while. I'm not a natural at it, but I'm learning to be comfortable talking to you in this kind of way. But it sure is nice to have them sitting here, you know, on the couch looking at me with smiling faces, even if they are sort of moving in and out of I don't know what, Tejasa or Prajna or something, moving in and out of stillness. Stillness is a good thing to come. Again, thank you for visiting. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for playing. And see you later. Okay? Om. Tat Sat. Om. Om. Good to see you, Ray. Really good to see you show up. Glad you're having fun. Yes, and I look forward to being together next Sunday, too. Om Tat Sat. Om. Om, which is everything, is all of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. The gross universe, the subtle psychic astral plane, the causal ground out of which all of this springs, all of that together is captured under the word Om. Om is the name of that totality of reality. Om. Tat means that. Sat means the capital R reality. Om. That alone is reality. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Including you. You're Om too. You are Atman. You are Brahman. I'll be quiet now. Somebody here will be quiet. Thank you for playing. Have a wonderful next meditation, okay? Om Tat Sat.